Hello and a warm welcome to our election special interviews. The left front bagged its best number of seats in the year 2000 when it won 61 seats, and subsequently the vote share and the number of seats have declined. But in 2019, how are the odds stacked up for the left front in India? Joining me now is the General Secretary of the Communist Party of India, Marxist, Mr. Sitaram Yechury. I welcome you on the program. My first question to you is that will left front now see a recovery from the lows of 2014?
Well, it is an uphill task, but we are making all the efforts, and I'm sure there will be an improvement from 2014.
But why is it that the traditional, the bastions of the left, say for example Tripura, West Bengal, and also now seemingly Kerala, why is the ground seem to be slipping from the left front's hand?
Well, there are various factors that have gone into it. I mean, one is that you had a very long period, unprecedented in Indian political history, to have the same party or the same combination of the parties continuously winning 7 consecutive elections, like we won in Bengal. And no, that has its own negative aspects as well. I mean, people throng to you not because of any ideology, any commitment, but because you are the ruling party. And then you eventually pay the price. That is one factor. But the main factor, what happened in Bengal, was the fact that the opportunity was created in 2009 actually, and 2011 basically, where the entire opposition could get united. I mean, you ranging from the ultra-left to the ultra-right, from the RSS to the Maoists. I mean, all of them had ganged up together. There's a real grand anti-CPIM, more than the anti-left alliance that was put in place. And that happened, I mean, initially in 2009, and then in the assembly elections 2011, and finally in 2014. And the point is that the left being targeted by the current dispensation of the BJP RSS, because remember, when the Tripura elections were lost by the left, then there was a meeting, a celebratory meeting in the Central Hall of the Parliament, when the BJP MPs were all saying, and one of the MPs was asking, why are you making such a big hullabaloo about a state that sends only 2 MPs to the Parliament? And you look at Prime Minister Modi's answer was that it may be sending only 2 MPs, it may be a small state, but nevertheless defeating the CPIM is a big ideological victory for us. So the left is the target right now, because it is the most consistent opposition to the communal forces and the most consistent upholder of secularism and democracy. Now, weakening the left is important for their ideological project to succeed. So it's a battle of ideologies. I mean, basically, it's essentially a battle which we are fighting.
Talking about West Bengal specifically, the way the political fight is emerging, we see that BJP is becoming the principal challenger to the Trinamool Congress, whereas it was a left bastion altogether. So where did left go wrong? Why did it cede so much of space to an opposition party like BJP?
No, it is not really the left going wrong, but this is not surprising that when you have a counterposing of competitive communalism, the space for democratic parties in between gets squeezed out. Remember, I mean, this has been the history of ours since the days of partition and independence struggle. Dhaka was a much bigger political center than Calcutta was. Look at what happened to Dhaka after the communal conflagration, and the fact that very few students, our children also don't know, where was Gandhiji on 15th of August 1947 when the tricolour was being unfurled at the Red Fort? He was not here. He was on a hunger strike in Calcutta, trying to stop the communal madness that was raging in Noakhali and other places there. So what is happening in Bengal is competitive communalism being played out between Trinamool Congress and the BJP, and they feed each other. And in the process, what happens is that the space, democratic space, gets squeezed out, and that is the danger of communal politics. When you start appeasing either section, communalism or fundamentalism, and when they start growing and feeding on each other. I mean, it's exactly like Mr. Imran Khan wanting Mr. Modi to win this election. The stronger they become in India, the stronger they become in Pakistan.
But what stops the left front or the left parties from offering newer solutions to the people? I mean, what you're saying is that there is competitive communalism between Trinamool and BJP. But what stops the left front from offering new ideas?
Nothing.
If there is space for
Absolutely.
the democratic voices.
Absolutely, that's exactly what we are doing, and that's exactly what people are responding to also. Look at the Left Front's rally in Brigade Parade grounds, which was held a few days after the rally held by the ruling Trinamool Congress. I mean, the crowd turnout there was at least 3 times larger at the Left Front's rally. The crucial point in Bengal and in Tripura is whether our support base is allowed to cast their vote. And that is where all these clashes and political fights actually happen. Last elections, we lost 179 of our comrades in those clashes. You see, what happens is the Election Commission provides...
No, but if you talk about having lost the comrades in West Bengal, Kerala also likewise, you know, there are stories appearing almost on an everyday basis about political killings, how BJP workers have also been killed, RSS workers have been killed. So, it's happening both ways.
No, but the cycle of violence in Kerala is an entirely different pattern altogether. One, the scale and magnitude in Bengal is much larger. Number 2, in Kerala, once the violence spiral begins, there is really no end anybody can put to it, because it's action and counter-reaction. Only way it can be stopped is through a political dialogue between the people. And number of times our state government in Kerala is called, the party is called, but then if you call the BJP, it says that no, the clashes are between CPM and the RSS, so why are you calling us? When you call the RSS, they say that we are not a political party, so how are you calling us to an all-party meeting? So this is how the division of responsibility between the BJP RSS, they escape from any commitment to restore peace. So in Kerala, that is a totally different problem. This started not now, some 40 years ago, when the RSS tried. I mean, in fact, our Prime Minister Modi, before he became the Prime Minister, is on record saying that the biggest unit of the RSS is in Kerala, all over the country. But electorally, they are not finding any reflection of that. So these clashes were part of the RSS whole practice and ideology, that violence and spread of hatred is an essential ingredient of their political package.
Right.
And that has been happening. So the clashes in Bengal are different. It's not between the communal forces and the left in terms of ideological perception. It is basically thwarting a democratic process. If you this time what happened in Tripura, the Election Commission is viewing this whole thing. It had an internal inquiry which confirmed what we were saying, that people go out to vote, Election Commission and the central forces give protection for about, say, 250 meters from the polling booth, but from the home to that point, what is the protection? And that is when we are attacked. So if our vote is allowed to be polled, you will find a dramatic difference in the results. And that is what the actual battle is.
My question to you is that, has the left learned its lessons from the political losses it has suffered in 2014?
Of course it has.
And how are you really going to reshape your agenda?
Of course it has. I mean, in fact, our agenda right now to the youth, to the youngsters, I mean, youth are our biggest component of our population now. I mean, they are almost 60% or more. I mean, 2/3 is below the age of 40, you know, our people. So what is our, this message to them? India has no shortage of resources. If we can stop this loot that is taking place, even partially, there's enough money through public investments to build our infrastructure that we need, which will generate the jobs, and the youth can be provided both with education, employment, and also a proper health, in which case the youth will build a better India. All that is required to do is to change the policies in a way you stop this loot and use those monies instead for both building our infrastructure and generating employment.
But when left front parties, Mr. Yechury, talk about real issues, say for example unemployment, rural distress, gap between the rich and the poor, to the young voters, you're saying, young voters always say that the left front appears very outdated, out of fashioned. So how do you really reshape or reinvent your strategy for the young voters?
Yeah, it depends on which young voter you're talking to. I mean, you talk to the young unemployed youth, he'll tell you an entirely different story. You see, our electoral strength may be at its lowest ebb, but the fact in shaping the national agenda, The left is still the most important player. All these Kisan agitations, the Kisan long marches, I mean, these were the ones that were initiated during the last year and a half or so by the left. And that is why today Kisan and the agrarian distress has become the central agenda of every political party. I mean, you can't escape it. Neither can you escape the issue of unemployment. Now, both these issues, it was the popular struggles led by the left that brought them into the center stage.
Left front, you saying, was at the forefront in championing the issues related to the farmers, but all the credit seems to be taken by parties like Congress and Trinamool. Left front is nowhere in the picture.
Where is the, I mean, how do you measure that credit? Yes, I mean, they have to willy-nilly accept the fact that it was the left that brought this onto the central agenda. They are trying to address that issue. And what are they saying? Exactly what we have put forward. Every single party today is talking of the Swaminathan Commission report, implementation of that. It's talking of a one-time loan waiver for the farmers so that they don't commit distress suicides. They are talking of employment. I mean, why are these people talking of them, which they weren't earlier? They are talking because left brought them to the center stage of the agenda. And that is the measure also, not only electoral successes, the yardstick to measure the left is also its ability to shape the agenda before the country.
The left front has shaped the agenda as far as the farmers' issues are concerned and other related issues to agrarian distress. Why is left not able to make its presence felt? Maybe in terms of number of seats, in terms of the electoral presence. What is the roadblock?
Number one, as I told you earlier, was not allowing our support base to actually cast their votes.
Okay.
That is one big battle. Number two.
So what's being done?
No, we are
by
fighting.
The left front.
We are fighting that. I mean, what else can we do? Okay. The administration, the police are hands of the state government. The central forces will come into play only in the 200 meters to the electoral booth. Though between their homes till that point, who will defend them?
So you mean to say that there is no hope?
No, I mean, they are fighting, and that fight will show its results. I mean, that's how it's happened in the past as well, because nobody.
Is it going to be a fight or a bloodbath then?
That is up to them, up to those who attack us. We have the right to vote. Allow us to exercise that, no? Why are you stopping us? That is the point. That is the pointed issue. That is number one obstacle. Number two obstacle is today, unfortunately, the democratic process of elections has been very severely vitiated by the use of money power. I mean, you see these amounts of money that are being spent. I mean, it's reaching a ridiculous limit. I mean, 100 crores for an assembly seat down in the south, if you go down. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, and you have an election commission ceiling of 70 lakhs for a parliamentary seat. I mean, it's a pittance. I mean, and the amount of money that the election commission has seized already runs into hundreds of crores. Now, so this is actually vitiating the atmosphere to the extent that when I go down campaigning, it may sound funny and people may laugh, but there's big irony behind it. When a poor person tells me and asks me a question saying, sir, why are elections held only once in 5 years? Why not every year? I said, why? He said, that is the time when we get something. That's the only time when we receive something, so why don't you make it an annual exercise? But there's the irony and the pathos behind it is the fact that that is when the people actually, when some doles are given out to them, they vote in accordance with that.
Whatever, I mean, you call it an ironical reality, but that's the way the elections are. So how do parties like the left front get a level playing field?
But it needs to change. No? Level playing field has to be brought into place. That's why we require a government that is able to actually address this issue. We have many suggestions. We are giving those suggestions since day one. We are saying ban corporate funding of political parties. Instead, now you have legalized the Modi government through this electoral bonds. You have virtually legalized. Nobody knows who buys the bonds, nobody knows which party gets it. So it's lovely, beautiful secrecy and anonymity, and the money flows. 95% of that, according to Election Commission, flew to the BJP. Now, all these things need to be reformed. You have a system of state funding of election. You have it in Germany, you have it in various other democracies in the world, and it's perfectly workable. And then you can put a curbs on such expenditures. And secondly, what is required in India right now is that this is a government with 31% of the popular vote. not of the electorate, only of those who voted. 69% voted against the BJP last elections, but they have a majority. You require a proportional representation system where the actual strength of a party in terms of the vote share is reflected in the numbers in the parliament. So, I mean, we require some very, very deep electoral reforms if you want to really protect democracy in its truest sense. Now, that is a big challenge. I mean, you require a government that is amenable to this. But anybody in government, it suits them not to do it.
Yeah, I mean, like whether it's any government in power,
I agree. I mean, we have been fighting with the Congress as well when they were in government on this issue, and we'll continue to fight, because I think eventually this fine-tuning of Indian democracy is absolutely essential. We are now 7 decades down the line after independence, and now the time has come to do this.
Mr. Yechury, talking to you about the prospects in Kerala and talking specifically about Rahul Gandhi's contest in Wayanad, is Congress not eroding the electoral presence of the left front?
Well, first of all, Congress has to answer the question which they have not answered as to why, I mean, have you chosen in Kerala? I mean, the answer they have given is that they should fight from both north and south to give the impression that India is united. Fine. But Indira Gandhi is Congress president for Chikmagalur in Karnataka, for the then Janasangh candidate, I mean, who was part of the Janata Party or whatever it is. And then Mrs. Sonia Gandhi as the Congress president fought at Bellary, fighting the BJP. What is the point coming to Kerala to fight the LDF? While saying that BJP should be defeated, country has to be saved, save India today, etc., etc., etc. If that is the case, what is the message you are giving? No, that is a question they will have to answer. But the point is that in Kerala, the fight is always electoral contest. I wouldn't say fight, but the electoral contest has always been between the Congress-led front and the CPM-led front. And that it shall be, who will be the candidate, and that is what it is.
Rahul's presence is going to impact the voting in Kerala.
That again surveys, you know, how much is credible they are, that's a different point. But the question is that definitely it may galvanize the Congress worker to work more than what he would have otherwise done, etc. But at the same time, that also galvanizes our worker. And that's why when I was there in that constituency, Wayanad, the sort of the road show, when the number of people that turned up for it and that crowd went swelling, was something that even our leaders in Kerala say that was something that they never expected in a place like Wayanad. Support for the left. So it is happening. Political polarization between the two is sharpening. And what result it will take place, that's a different thing. In Kerala, remember, 1% vote shift makes all the difference.
Coming again to the strategy adopted by the left front, if you look at the alliances, the way they have been stitched across the country, we don't see left front aligning with too many parties in many states. Now, say for example, Maharashtra, you said that you led the farmers' march in Mumbai, but no alliance has taken place in Maharashtra.
That's unfortunate.
What's
very
the reason?
Unfortunate, and I'm sure that those who have chosen not to ally with the left, I mean, will also pay dearly, unfortunately. And unnecessarily. I mean, all that we are saying was that in one seat where we have an MP, I mean, MLA there for the last 7 terms. And that was the base from which the Mumbai Long March took place of the Kisans.
But the other opposition parties say that the left front parties don't have a very open-ended approach, and they have a very closed-door thinking, and they don't mingle too easily.
That's not true. On the other hand, you say that, I mean, I can get along with all the other political party leaders, etc., etc. If that is not the case, how is this true? That is not the issue at all. The issue is finally the actual battle of the turf.
Okay.
Now, the Nationalist Congress Party decided to bring in somebody who was with the Shiv Sena earlier to put up as their candidate in the seat where we are also contesting. Now, you'll see now with the ground realities, I mean, what is going to happen. I mean, that is, unfortunately, you're just gifting away a seat. Now, they learn out of their experience, I'm sure.
Where is left front pinning its hope? West Bengal, the ground looks slippery. Tripura, you've lost it in the assembly elections. Kerala, we don't know how it's going to fare out. So where are you actually pinning the hope? See, and with not too many alliances and too many states.
In Bengal and Tripura, if our people are allowed to vote, then it will make a lot of difference.
But there's a big if.
Yeah, there's a big if. And there is the democratic opinion and the administration that has to come into play. And that's what we are telling the Election Commission, you know, it's your game, so to speak. Nobody else has the mandate to conduct a free and fair poll according to Indian Constitution except the Election Commission. They have all the powers to do it. Now, whether they'll exercise that or not, under what pressure they'll be working, that's up to them to finally decide. But if they do it and they allow proper voting, then Bengal and Kerala will do very well. In Kerala, yes, I mean, it's always a polarized thing between the two fronts. In Kerala, never has the difference been more than 2 lakh votes at the entire state level.
Right.
At the whole state level. Just a less than 2 lakh vote difference between one or the other, that tilts the whole balance.
Another observation which comes across, and many analysts do talk about the fact, is that the left front doesn't cultivate too many the second generation leaders. We don't find too many mass leaders on the ground. What's the reason for that? And is the party not working on this?
No, that's not correct. Look at our candidates in Kerala, or look at Kanaya Kumar in Begusarai, or look at even our candidates in Bengal. I mean, they're all youngsters
No,
in this.
what about other states then?
I mean, wherever else we are contesting, I mean, you take Maharashtra, for example, Indian Tory, or you take Rajasthan, where we are contesting. I mean, these are all young candidates who won as their MLAs in the recent assembly election. Or you take, I mean, your Tamil Nadu. There is a young, bright, upcoming author who's got won a Sahitya Academy Award. He is our candidate in Madurai, for instance. I mean, you know, so you have a sort of people who other parties will never even think of, you know, placing them for contest.
But Mr. Yechury, why are there not too many takers for what the left is offering presently? Maybe in terms of solutions, in terms of whatever framework you are offering to the people, in terms of unemployment, in terms of talking about bridging the gap between the rich and the poor. We don't seem to have too many takers of this ideology.
There are takers when they think about these issues. But when you don't allow people to think, and then when the logic of fast food takes over, then it is actually what are the doles that you are getting at the time of the election that will decide. And there, today, the sort of games that are being played with money and with the sort of social engineering that is being done, no, these are the factors that have become predominant. In fact, they should have been secondary when democratic choices are supposed to be exercised. But unfortunately, they are becoming predominant, and the whole system is not really worried about it as much as we are worried, saying that you change it, because it distorts the democratic choices of the people.
But if that is the way you are saying, what is the choice before the left front then? I mean, it's like a do or die.
No, not only do or die. The choice is to continue to ensure that you change this system. That will be a long battle. There will be a long battle. Therefore, we cannot immediately die. I mean, we'll have to do. We'll have to continuously do to ensure that the system is fine-tuned to actually reflect the people's democratic choices rather than enticements through money or pressure through muscle power or through their caste or whatever identities they have.
We do have examples of countries like China and Russia, which were seen to be torchbearers of communism, and the way they transgressed, transitioned to the free market economies. So, if you have to offer choices to the people, or if you have to talk about your political framework before the people, what is that one thing you would really offer to the people in terms of the change which the party wants to bring?
Number one, please understand, there is no contradiction between being a communist and a market. Market exists as long as commodities are produced. They require a place where they can be exchanged. So it's not a question of market versus no market. It's a question of what dominates. Is it the planning process that dominates the market, or the market that dominates the planning? And in both China and in Russia today, even today's Russia, you still have a large section of the planned economy there, input there. And in China, of course, it is the one controlled by the states. Even today, all the major levers of the economy are state controlled in China. So it's not as though that they've gone off into some sort of a free-wielding market economy. But the point is that what do we offer, let's say? What we offer today to the Indian economy and to the people and to your industry also What India requires today, according to us, according to me particularly, is India requires a New Deal. People say, I mean, how can you talk of the American concept of a New Deal, Roosevelt's New Deal? But what was the New Deal all about? State funding of infrastructure development. And that is what built these amazing highways in the USA. And what did it do? It actually generated a huge number of jobs, because of which when people got the money, they started spending, your industry started growing. What you require is a state public investment driven economic development, and that can be done in India. There is no shortage of resources, as I said. That can be done, and that's why look at China, or look at USA, look at UK, look at France, look at Germany. Nowhere has the infrastructure been developed except by public expenditure.
But if you talk about these factors, now I'll take the example of West Bengal, where left front ruled for so many decades. There also we didn't see a very satisfactory development in terms of social equity. Also, we didn't see the government doing much. People were not satisfied. So how do you really make a self-remedy?
Again, don't, because you see, a state government within a central government, all the economic drivers and policy decisions are central government domain. No state government can independently decide its own even resource mobilization. And now with the GST, even that is gone. Whatever little you had, I mean, even that is gone. So you cannot expect any state government to deliver on the lines that I am saying, but talking about public investments, etc.
No, but through a GST council, the states do have the freedom to express their choices, and whatever is done is through the consensus.
Where is that? I mean, with this government, even that is gone. With the Niti Aayog coming, the National Development Council was the place where you could, every chief minister could articulate and say this is what is required. But now that forum is gone. It's just been simply abolished. So the state governments are handicapped, every state government, I mean not only ours, every state government is handicapped because they can't really put into practice any economic policy that is based on resource funding, raising resources, because they don't have any of the policy instruments for that. So you will have to rely on the central government's policies. So within the limitation, whether you like it or not, well, there have been World Bank studies, which have shown that the fastest growth of poverty elevation among all the states at that point of time when Jyoti Basu was the chief minister was in West Bengal. I mean, these are all public, studies conducted by international agencies. And today, the Kerala, the human development indicators in Kerala compare or even favorable than most of the European countries. So, I mean, within limitations, the left has shown that what is possible.
Let me ask you a very honest answer. How many seats are you expecting 2019?
Listen, we are in a battle. And as a general in a battle, I am not going to say that I am going to lose somewhere. I am going to, since I am in a battle, I am going to say I am going to win all.
Okay.
But let the battle end, then we will see who will win, who will lose.
Wish you all the best, Mr. Yechury. It's a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you. Thank you a lot.
So that's it on this episode of our election special interviews. See you next time with another personality. Goodbye and thanks for your time.